I'm Steve Rose. What sets us apart is that green is not just a buzzword like a lot of people use. Green is an operative word, and it really is easy to do. I'm going to share with you my secrets on how to do this at home. I believe that people want to live this way, they just don't know how to go about it. And that's the whole purpose of the show, to teach you how to do it. I'm going to show you the pathway to green living and organic cooking. Welcome to the Organic Rose. Welcome to the Organic Rose. On this episode, I'm going to show you a couple of recipes that will showcase a local French bakery that I absolutely love. Later, we're going to get a chance to go visit with them and see what they're up to. They make some amazing breads. The baker Naz, and he's also one of the owners, he and his wife, he even makes his own flour. Let's start with Portuguese toast. We're going to take some of the bread and let it dry out a little bit, let it get some air. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and start cooking the batter. Get some heat on over here. It's a really simple recipe, and the good thing that I like about it, or one of the good things, is you can make it ahead of time and it'll last for a couple weeks in your refrigerator. It does have to set up for about 45 minutes or so all the flavors get a chance to marry and marinate. So here's some that I made yesterday. It smells so good. It's got a nice profile of cinnamon to it. So we start with some milk, 3 cups of organic local milk. And then we have 4 tablespoons of sugar. So just put it in there lightly. What I like to do is add it little by little and take a whisk and go ahead and mix it in. Now remember, you don't want your heat up too high. You do not want to boil the milk, you just want to simmer it to allow everything to dissolve in it. Add a little more sugar. Okay, well that's heating up. What I've done is I've gone outside and picked a lemon off of our tree. Actually 1 lemon. And went ahead and grated it on one of those fine micro graters. Oh, it smells so delicious. So we're going to drop some of that in. Let's put it all in. Okay, so let me keep whisking it. Starting to form some bubbles on the sides. Okay, now we're going to add a pinch of salt. I like to use kosher salt, or you can use sea salt. There we go. Okay, then it calls for some local honey. And I'm just going to go ahead and drizzle that in. And actually I should get the whip as well, or the whisk. So now let's go ahead and get on by making it. I've got some oil heating up here, just regular cottonseed oil. Grapeseed oil works really good. Grapeseed oil actually has a higher smoking point, so you don't have to worry about burning the product that's in the pan. So that's about ready. So go ahead and take the bread. All right, so let's give it a nice drench in here. And I let it sit for a minute or so. So while that's sitting, we'll go ahead and put another one in. Okay, here we go. Also, when you're putting things into hot oil, make sure that you always drop them in away from you and not towards you, because if you put them in towards you, you're going to splatter yourself with hot oil. Not a fun thing. Trust me, I've done that many times. Turn the heat down a little bit. Okay, we are in. Let's give the pan a little shake. You don't want it to stick on you, because remember, there is honey in there, and honey does have a tendency to stick sometimes when you're working with it in a pan. There we go. See, that's the kind of color you want to get from it, is a little bit of that kind of a tan color on it. You know what? Let's use this. Flipping it away from me. And it's really, the consistency, it's not going to get like toast as if it were toast coming out of a toaster. It's still going to be really soft. And if you allow it to cool for just a couple minutes, it's still going to be warm enough that when you dust the powdered sugar on it, the powdered sugar is going to tend to want to melt a bit and stick right to the bread. There we go. 2. 3. Turn the fire off. And there we go. Portuguese toast. Simple, easy, and delicious. So we'll go with a little bit of cinnamon. And if you happen to be a cinnamon lover, then go for more. That's your call. Okay, this is the powdered sugar. I've got a little, like a strainer here, so that'll prevent any lumps from going out there, and we're just going to kind of tap it. Okay. So you can see the first one that I did was really white, like this color. And now it's darkened a bit, so that powdered sugar is beginning to start its melting process. So again, simple is good. Using their bread is amazing, but any good French bread works really well. I think I have to have a bite of this. I'll tell you, that is really good. So now we're going to take a little field trip to Gougette Bakery and see how they make this delicious, amazing, wonderful bread.
Bonjour, Chef Rose. Bonjour.
How are you?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you.
The bread you guys make is amazing. The best in California, the best in the nation, but it's, I don't know what it is, but it's so addictive and it's so good.
Thank you.
Why did you decide to do this?
So my husband, that was a retirement project. That was his dream in order to, after being an engineer for 20 odd years and doing startups, that's all he wanted to do. So he went back to France, got trained as a baker for 10 years,
wow,
and then opened this up as a retirement project.
Quote unquote, right?
Quote unquote, that's exactly right, yes.
And tell me about your background.
So we're both Persian,
Okay.
Iranian, but we grew up mostly in France. I was between Paris and Lyon, and his training mostly was in Annecy, which is close to Zurich, close to Geneva, actually, in Switzerland. So we decided a long time ago, because of the whole food scene in France, when we moved to US, it was very hard to find the foods that we were used to, especially the breads that we used to eat in the little villages.
Right.
Because everything now, everything is commercial yeast, a lot of sugar, make the bread go fast. So here we are. We have our background and we moved here.
So what should the average consumer know about bread, and your bread being so different than the average bread that you can pull off the shelf in the supermarket?
So your bread has to be fermented 16 to 18 hours. It should have only 3 basic ingredients. It should have flour, salt, and water. It should not have all. If you are looking at the list of ingredients and there are about 25 different ingredients, there is something not right with that bread, one. Number 2, it is extremely important that when it is stored, if your bread lasts about 5 days, there is a problem typically. We usually recommend our breads to be kept in linen, in a drawer. They can actually last 5 to 7 days sometimes, but not in plastic.
Bonjour, Steve.
Bonjour.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to ask you some questions about your operation here.
Absolutely.
You
Pleasure.
make some of the finest breads I've ever had, and for sure in Sonoma County and possibly the state and probably the nation. But it's your style is incredible. It's very original, and I feel it's very authentic.
Thank you, Chef. You're being too kind.
So tell me a little bit about your bakery.
So basically, we make. We are focused on bread and fermentation. They make French style sourdough or pain au levain. We call it pain au levain because as we are in Bay Area, when we say sourdough, folks think we are making San Francisco sourdough. But pain au levain is lower in acidity. So our focus is making bread pain with levain. And we are making breads that are long fermented, at least 16 to 18 hours. Some of the flour that we use in our breads are milled in-house, and also we make ancient grains that are also milled in-house.
So tell me the process of actually milling flour in-house.
So basically, we purchase wheat berries. Currently, we buy them from our supplier in Petaluma, Keep Justo Bakery Supply, and we have a stone mill in-house that we imported from France, and we mill the flour here. We make about our flour is about around 90% extraction. So the bread that's made on a Wednesday is from a flour that was milled just the day before.
Wow, talk about fresh. What about the yeast that you use? Can you tell me something about it?
Actually, what we use, we don't use any commercial yeast. We use levain sourdough, which is basically fermented flour, and it's a levain that I brought from France, from Haute-Savoie region. Somewhere around 23, 24-year-old.
Wow.
And it just so with sourdough we get 2 types of fermentation. One is we get the yeast activity, which is wild yeast that we have in the air, and also on the kernel of our wheat that we mill here. We also have lactic acid bacteria. Okay, so those 2 that really break down the starches that bring out all the flavors in bread that we are seeing.
It's so good.
So this is what we call levain chef, or mother levain, which we feed or refresh every day. And feeding, refreshing means you're basically feeding the yeast with flour, where yeast feeds on the sugar that's in the flour and creates CO2. And in this case, we also have lactic acid bacteria. So the purpose is to increase the population of those yeast and bacteria to make a levain that's strong. So here we go. This is a small amount. So we use a very small amount of levain, and we do very minimal mixing, so not to over-oxidize the dough. And we build the gluten really through what they call a stretch and fold. That's how we build the structure in our dough. So really, we are really creating nothing new. We're just making bread how bread used to be made for thousands of years.
And still, in many parts of Europe, it's still made that way, from
Exactly.
generation to generation to generation.
Exactly.
So describe a day in the life of Gougette Bakery.
So we start the day around 8 a.m. And one of the first things that we do is to refresh our levain. Levain is like our baby. So it gets feeding first thing in the morning. And the baking starts around 9 a.m. And we start loading the oven. And of course, these are breads that were the dough that was prepared the night before. And while the oven is being loaded, one other person starts the mix for the following day around 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And throughout, as the baking continues, mixing continues, and we do bulk fermentation for several hours. And around mid-afternoon, we start doing the shaping for the final day, where we shape the bread and put them away for in a cooling unit for the following day. Voila.
And that's it.
That's it.
Sounds like a great day to me.
Yep, it's easy.
Right. Tell me about the styles of bread that you make, because I know you make lots of different styles. And,
Right.
and Najine was just telling me that your favorite is the rye bread that you make.
Right.
So tell me about what you make.
So some of this has to do where I got most of my training. It has to do in Haute-Savoie region of France, and so my breads are mostly like the mountain bread in the Alps, and we make country style bread, and of course in that region also we make rye, which originates from Bavaria.
Really?
But also in France they make something similar. And I like making rye because it's really challenging. The fermentation of rye is very different from regular wheat bread, and it's just that you have to pay more attention to the parameters of fermentation, which has to do with the acidity, with hydration, and the time that it takes to ferment. So I always look forward to Thursday morning to come here early and work on my rye bread.
And what are the other breads that you make?
So we make pain de campagne that has sprouted whole wheat. We make a pain de ville, which is basically a baguette. It's like a baguette in a larger loaf. And then sort of our everyday breads are baguettes and épis, and these are all lighter dough to accompany meals. We are really creating nothing new. We're just making bread how bread used to be made for thousands of years.
And still, in many parts of Europe, it's still made that way. From
Exactly.
generation to generation to generation.
Exactly. Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I just got back from my favorite bakery in Santa Rosa, California, and they make the most amazing bread. I was able to learn how bread is made, all their processes, and they're wonderful people. So I'm going to try a recipe using some bread. So we have some sourdough torpedo rolls. Here's one that I've already hollowed out so you can get the idea that this is what we're going to do. So you cut like a V shape into the bread, not allowing the tip of the knife to get to the bottom of the bread, because you do not want to pierce it. And just keep going under until you can feel it loosening up. And this is a great recipe too for those of you that are trying to cut back on your bread consumption. Okay. And then I take a smaller knife and just try to work in there a little bit and even get some more out. Okay. All right. So there we go. We have two boats. In Spanish, they call them barcos. Set those back in the basket for a moment. Get this out of my way. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and crack a couple of eggs. So this recipe, it varies. what I just try to base it on is 1 egg per person, or 2 if you have a hungry group. And we're going to take a little bit of organic cream. Doesn't take much. Okay. And get that all incorporated nicely. A little bit of salt. What I use is a mixture of sea salt and kosher salt. We're going to do a crack of black pepper. I like pepper, so I'm going to get some more. And a little bit of white pepper. Okay, the ingredients can be pretty much whatever you want. This happens to be a chicken bratwurst sausage. You can use pancetta. You can use nice, wonderful bacon. Any type of meat product you can use. You can even do a vegetarian option if you choose to. I'm going to put this in. It has very thinly sliced green onion. Remember, I've already added the salt and pepper into the egg. Oh, I can smell it here already. And what I've done with the meat is I've just kind of browned it off a little bit. Some roasted pimiento, which is red pepper. And I'm using Gruyere cheese here because it's a really good grating cheese. So, like I say, you can use whatever kind of cheese you like, but it needs to grate well. And I'm going to add a little bit of water to it. Just a couple drops. And then we mix it all up. This doesn't take very long to cook either. Rather quickly. Okay. You know what I think I'm going to do too is I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to it. Everything's good with olive oil. Okay. And these boats are ready to be filled up. And leave the harbor to go into the oven. And just spoon them in. You'll notice that the mix is a little bit on the wet side, but that's okay because by the time they're done baking, all that moisture will have been absorbed into the bread. And if you get a little bit that runs over the side like this one did over here, that's okay, don't worry about it. That egg part will caramelize nicely in the oven and it'll be nice and tan running down the side and it'll give it some additional color. And if you choose to, you can add some paprika on top for some color. If you like things a little bit spicy, you could go ahead and put some nice ground chili on there on top. That's sometimes what I do, but this one I made it just a little bit on the mild side. So let me go ahead and put this in the oven. Very nice, they smell nice. Look at that. Nice color on the bread. It's got a nice even toast color to it. All the egg mixture is solidified and everything's ready to roll. Make sure you let these cool a little bit before you serve them because they're going to be hot. I think you'll really enjoy these boats. They're delicious, they're creamy, nice smoky hint to them because of the sausage that I used. And yeah, they're a great thing for brunch. Glass of fresh juice, some wonderful coffee, and a glass of bubbles, or a bottle of bubbles in my case. I had a good time with Najine and Naz at Gougette Bakery in Santa Rosa. We had a wonderful time. So thank you for watching. Enjoy my recipes. and I'll catch you next time on The Organic Rose. Next time on The Organic Rose, we are making dessert for dinner using fun ingredients.